So good morning. Good morning once again, and welcome to this class, the class for today. Am I audible enough? Before I continue.
Hello, ma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's okay. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So last week we covered module 4 of this track, and then we covered things around Azure security. We talk about security center, key vault, dedicated host, and we also talk about Azure network security. We understood at a high level what defense in depth was, and how network security group and firewall works together. And we talk about the DDoS protection. So all of those were to see and understand how we can protect our resources that are created, or the moment we start moving to the cloud, this allows us to be able to put that level of protection as much as we want to put those protection in place when the resource is hosted in our local on-premise data center. So this week, we are going to be starting module 5. Module 5 is talking majorly about identity, governance, privacy, and compliance. So I will say, to an extent, is the next level of the security module, because almost everything we are going to be talking about is still interwoven with is still around security, around risk, around auditing, around compliance, and those areas. So what we'll be covering in this module, we'll talk about Azure Identity Services. On a high level, or basically for the purpose of this course, we'll talk about or understand authentication against authorization. And then we'll discuss the various identity services that are available in Azure, like Azure AD, multi-factor authentication, MFA for short. And we'll talk about single sign-on and conditional access. So we'll move further to talk about information governance as it relates to Azure, the tools available for you to be able to achieve governance within your Azure services. And then finally, we'll talk about privacy and compliance. So talking about privacy here is now talking about what Microsoft will do and what they will not do with your data or resources that you are hosting with them in Azure. So we'll take a little walk around the Trust Center, where we can find those documents or documentation around privacy and compliance. We'll touch each of those areas. So let's start with the core Azure Identity Services in Azure. And what we'll be covering around there, like I said earlier, we'll be able to understand and differentiate between authentication and authorization. What are those? And then what service render this authentication, the sub-service of authentication and authorization in Azure? And in what scenario will you make use of the Azure Active Directory and other functions that are, available, or features available from within your Azure Active Directory, which are the multi-factor authentication, the single sign-on, the conditional access, in what scenarios will you be making use of each of those available features in Azure. So now, what is authentication really? Let's use a scenario to kind of explain this. Okay, so let's say I am asked now, or probably I went to maybe an embassy right now to secure a visa, or probably even I'm at the airport, wanting to go, and the immigration offices, where when you get to each of those checkpoints, they will ask certain questions, collect your passport to verify. So now I'm asked at any of those points what my name are. They just want to be sure what my names are, and I told them I'm Titi Lokwebelu. So one of the things they will want me to do is to prove that truly I am Titi Lokwebelu. So how do I prove to them? I have to present a form of government approved identity card or identification card, maybe like my international passport or driver's license or voter's registration card. Something that carries my picture or photo and carries my names, first name, last name, even maybe DOB. It can carry things like my signature, where they will use to verify against other documents that I have. And the moment I'm able to provide any of these government approved identity card, they are able to see that yes, it is truly I, you know, who is carrying this identity. So this process of verifying that a person's identity, a person's identity is really the right one, or this exact process now of verifying that identity is called authentication. So they are authenticating how authentic is you, or is the information you are giving about yourself. That is authentication. Then, now that I have been able to, prove my identity now, the next step will be, so now with this identity that I've provided, what can I do and what can I not do with it? So now taking it to Azure, I will have an identity, or a user will have an identity. Now, when the user want to now make use of his identity, something have to also say, yes, I know you have proven yourself, but then what can you do? What are you allowed to do and what are you not allowed to do? So based on what my identity is allowed to do, I'm able to gain access to resource, or I'm being denied access to a resource if my identity is not permitted to access such a resource. So this process now of permitting or denying a particular identity's access to a particular resource is known as authorization. So let me use maybe this other simpler one to explain. If you buy a plane ticket now, you want to travel somewhere, and then plane tickets, there are different categories that you can buy. You have the economic class, you have the business class, you might have the first class. I think at least I'm familiar with those three categories. So now when you get to, as you are entering into the plane or as you're boarding, they will check your ticket, or your boarding pass rather, and based on that boarding pass, they tell you where you will sit or where your seat is located. And if your boarding pass is reading, there's a seat, is based on the seat, they understand what kind of ticket you have purchased. So if your seat is carrying seat 1, for instance, seat number 1, it means you are in first class. So there's no way your seat will be carrying something like 30 something or even 20 something or 40 something, and they will ask you to come and sit on seat number 1. If you go there, somebody will definitely come to tell you to stand up, because you are not authorized to sit in that particular place. So that's the simplest way I will explain authorization for us on this call. So now, many times there are very important services that only a set of persons or people should be allowed to have access to. So let's say your credential now, while trying to do something on a particular website, a user credential got leaked. Now, and then this user might happen to be one of the people that have access to some very important resource in our Azure cloud. Now, when this user is not aware that his credential has been leaked, that means somebody else already have access to his. When we talk credential, we might be talking about username and password on the basic level. That's the standard credential, username and password. Now, your password has already been leaked without you knowing that it's been leaked. And then because you have access to this important resource, you went ahead to log into the resource, and through there, somebody else who have access to your password can also access these resources. So how do we now, prevent, a compromised account from being able to access resources that they are not authorized to access? We can prevent that or implement additional level of authentication. So if you come now with your username and password, I can decide to ask you to provide another form of authentication on top of what you have already given me before. I just want to be double sure that yes, you are this person and then you have right to access that particular resource. So we'll be implementing what they call multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication really provide additional security for your identity by requiring two or more authentication, authentication process from you as a user. These additional security informations now, they could be something like your normal username, your standard username and password. It could be a answer to a security question that you have already been asked to set previously. It could be something. It could be something you own. Now, something you own, something you possess, and that can be your mobile phone. That's your phone, your telephone number, which you will use now to receive a form of code that you will use that you provide to that authentication service that before it allow you to now go further. Now, on your mobile, you can decide to have mobile app on your mobile phone. Using a mobile app means you will install an application, and then that application will be the one generating like 6 or 8 digits number for you to use as your second factor. Or it could be a token device like your bank. Most of us, at least, we use bank. We want to do transfer. Some of us use soft token. Some of us use hardware token. So for those that use hardware token, if you want to perform such transaction of transferring money from your account to another account, you will need to press the button on your token device and input the 6-digit key or 6-digit number generated before you can be able to complete that transaction. So those are something that you own and that can be used as a multi-factor authentication. And a third thing that you can use could be something you are. So now something you are, this is majorly digital in nature, in the sense something you have could be your Irish. So using your Irish, that's using the biometric for signing in, or your fingerprint. or something, an app that is identifying or that can identify your face. So these are different ways by which multi-factor authentication service can be provided, or that second level of authentication can be provided for a particular service access. So now, all of these services that we talk about, or all of these features that we talk about, for you to be able to do it, there have to be a service that is responsible to, present you or provide you with all of those services. And this particular product or solution that can give you such service is called Azure Active Directory. So Azure Active Directory is a Microsoft Cloud based identity and access management service. So when we say identity here, I think with all the explanation we gave earlier, we should have understanding of what an identity is by now. So identity here really is referring to a user identity, just a user saying, okay, I am here, I am who I am. I said I am, rather. Now, Azure, after providing identity, will also provide access to services based on what the identity is allowed, or what resource the identity is allowed to have access to. So for every tenant, the moment every organization sign up for maybe Azure or any other services like Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Intune or Microsoft Enterprise Security Plus Mobility Solutions, a dedicated and trusted instance of Azure AD is automatically created for every organization the moment you sign up. So this Azure AD tenant is where you go to create your users, create your groups. You can even use it also to manage devices. So that is what we call Azure Active Directory. Every tenant have one that is dedicated to them. So like we said, it is responsible for authentication. That's user signing in. That's verifying users' username and password. That is the job of Azure Active Directory. Then it can also provide what we call single sign-on service. So single sign-on service, this is how it works. Office 365, for instance, let's say, have different products under it. It has email, it has SharePoint, it has Microsoft Teams, it has Office. And for you to be able to use all of these services, you have to use an account. You have to have an identity that is giving you access to those services. So each time, think about it this way. Let's say you have, in Office 365 right now, you have close to 22 applications based on depending on the license you have purchased, right? Now, each time you want to access any of these applications, he's now asking you for username and password at every point in time. You want to access your email, he asks you to provide username and password. You want to access SharePoint, you are asked to provide. So in order to limit or to reduce the level of ask, or the number of times you are asked to provide credential for services that you want to use, you can configure single sign-on. So it's not only for Microsoft solution. Also, if you have things like um, other web services, other web solutions or web applications that are from other vendor, like there's this service desk, there's there's a whole lot of other cloud services out there. You can actually integrate your Azure Active Directory with it so that you can use the same credential you use for your Office 365 or for your Azure to also access those other applications, cloud applications that you have. So it make it easier for you to remember just one single password rather than having different username and password for every solution or every application that you are subscribing to in the cloud. Then we talk about application management. So he is able to manage application in the sense that there's a section of Azure Active Directory that you go to be able to add and remove application. And each application you add is meaning, it means you are making the applications available to your users for them to be able to access them easily. So you can have a portal right now that have all apps. So when a user log in to that particular portal, they will see all the applications they have access to, rather than them going to the URL of each of the application one after the other. They just need to click that application from the portal, the single portal you have created from Azure AD, and they're able to have access to it. Then he allow you to be able to do what we call business to business authentication as well, or service. So how? Let's say you have some solutions, you have some applications in your own organization, and you have a business partner that you want to share those applications with. You want your business partner to come also from their own organization. They will also have their own resources, they have their email addresses and all of that. So what you would do is to configure what we call business to business, such that it's only those organizations that you have allowed access to that will be able to access the same applications that you have given them access to from your own environment. Then we talk of business to consumer, that's B2C identity services. This is a situation where you have services or you have solutions that you have built or applications that you want the general public to access. So you can configure what we call B2C, such that people that uses things like Hotmail, Yahoo, Outlook account, they can also use those accounts to be able to access, that particular service that you are making available to the public. Then device management finally. So Azure AD have all of these features and more that you can leverage on within your environment. Now, there's a feature called conditional access. So let's say, like we said, you have thousands of apps that users need to authenticate on. And what we have done is we've turned on multi-factor authentication. So it means as users need to sign into thousands of apps, they also need to provide that second level of authentication 1,000 times. So now, one thing we also need to consider is we need to be able to balance between security and user experience, right? If the security is too tight, the user they can lose interest, they can lose focus. Because why? Because of so much security that is put in place, they might be wasting a lot of time trying to uh, uh, answer security questions rather than doing their work. So in such case, there are there might be a requirement to say, okay, when a user is on this particular network, let's say where users come to the office and you have your IP, your gateway IP, your internet IP, for instance, you can decide to say when user is using this particular IP that is coming from our gateway, our on-premises gateway, because we have firewall already that is filtering. If anybody is browsing through this IP, though do not ask them for that multi-factor authentication, just allow them to access the services they have. But the moment a user leave the on-prem, the company's building, the office building, to go to their own house, or even while they're in the office building, they are using their dongle or mobile data to access these services, then ask them to provide second level of authentication, to provide their multi-factor authentication. So this way, you are setting certain conditions, you are enforcing certain policies to say, if this happen, then let this. So in essence, conditional access is used by Azure Active Directory to bring signals together. No, signals together to make decision and enforce organizational policy. So like I said, here on the screen, you will see these different signals. Signals in terms of username, yes, the user, and then their location. I just talk about user being in the office building and using the office internet. That's a location. That when this such user is in the office building, do not ask them for multi-factor authentication. Just sign them, give them access to the resource they are asking for. That IP of our gateway of that office building has already been whitelisted. Yes, that's it. It's been whitelisted to be trusted. Now, it could be based on the kind of applications that they are accessing. Maybe that application is a very critical one, like an HR application or the finance application. You can say the finance user, if a user belongs to the finance group and you want to access Dynamics, for instance, because Dynamics, finance and operation or business central, those are things for really where the company's money and everything is. So you want to say, okay, ask them, even if they are coming from the office network, ask them to supply, second level of authentication. Or a user is signing in from a risky location. So risky location, it can be this. Today as at this morning, as at 8 a.m., you access your service from, let me say, from Lagos or from Ghana or from 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 Georgia, or from a particular place. And then in the next 2 hours, so I won't say Ghana because Ghana is not so far from where I am. Let me use let's pick Georgia or even California or something. And then in the next 2 hours, you are signing in again, and it's appearing that you are located in Nigeria. That is risky. That's real-time risk. It's not possible for you to have traveled that far in that short time. So in such case, when the system signal or sense that, it can automatically require the user to supply second factor authentication. And if the user failed to supply that, then it block user access. That means the user is not trusted as at that time. Something is phishing. So majorly, that is what conditional access is. If then is a kind of if then statement that allow you to be able to say if a user is coming from this location or this location, permit it to go freely without any issue. Or if it appear to be suspicious, then tell him to supply another do a second level of verification. If he's able to, then let him in. If he's not able to, deny him access. That is majorly what conditional access is all about. Now, so this is what we want to do here. The lab activity that we have here is more role-based access control. We will talk about role-based access control in the next next slide. So let's say you have a virtual machine in Azure. You have a virtual machine in Azure and you want a user. Naturally, any user you create in Office 365 only have the user role. They do not have any other role. So they can't access resources from your subscription. They can't do any other thing other than based on the license you have given to them, let them be able to access those applications. That's all. But in terms of maybe accessing, going beyond that to even say they want to check the web app, the app service, the virtual machine, whether it's running or it's shut down or it's behaving normal, they do not have all of those right. So what we will do quickly is to see how to quickly assign a role to a user. So I'm going to go to my portal. Okay. So here, first thing I want to do is to go to Azure AD, Azure Active Directory. So this is the Azure AD that is created, the tenant that is created for every user that sign up for Office 365 by default. So I have users here. See, I have go back. See, I have users, I have groups. Talk about applications. I have applications here. And this is where I will also come to configure a whole lot of things in terms of all the things that we've talked about. You see devices here. So devices, sometimes you want to associate or make sure that your devices are joined to Azure AD. So that way you'll be able to see devices and list of users in your environment that are using your cloud services from Microsoft side. So now let's go to users. Right now, I do not have uh, I do not have any user who is signing. Okay. Okay. So um, I'm currently directory. Let me see. Switch directory. Let me see the directory where I am. Okay, so from the look of things here, I have not created any directory. Why? Supposed to have, but I think it's the setup. Mm, yeah, strange. What's happening? Okay, I think I will have to. I will have to. Um, Let me quickly use another account. Okay. Just see. Yeah. Okay. So we're supposed to have. Okay, so I guess I will have to try and fix this. Something went wrong there. So I'm in my directory quite all right, but I'm not able to create user, which is strange. Okay. So I'll try and fix this in a while. Let me. Okay, like I said, I will try and fix it in a while. Once I'm able to fix it, we can revisit that. So don't take so much time. Um, but naturally, create is for you to create. Go to a particular sign up from here back and sign into Skype back. So let's say now I go to my subscription, the one I was using, and let's even say we have a user or we have users that are created. What I need to do or what I needed to do was to come to my subscription. So you can give access on subscription on at subscription level, or you can assign role at resource level, right? So here I'm on the subscription level and I will go to access control. So now under the access control, you see the current role assignment is role assignment. So you can click add new, that's add role assignment, and I select it, and here I will select which role is it that I want to assign to a person. So whether it's contributor role, owner role, mean you have full access to all the resources, contributor role, or I want to assign just backup operation or backup contribution. So somebody that will just manage just the backup aspect of the subscription. So these are the different roles that are available that you can assign to a user in Azure. So if I go now, let's say I click contributor role and then I'll click next. So here it's going to ask me to select users. So if I click select user, so here I'm either able to um, search for the user, or it might give me a list of, so let's see, let me see if it will bring anything out. Out. So because it's not able to see Active Directory, the Active Directory associated with this, probably I've deleted it at some point. I will check it. So you select the user, and then once you select the user, you click select. And then as you click select, you'll be able to go next, and that will be all. So once the user log in, is able to log into portal.azure.com, you will be able to see the subscription because I've given him something like contributor access to that subscription. So you can also give uh, uh, um, you can also assign role uh, based on resource group level. So I'm on resource group now and I select access control. I can do the same thing. And it can be based on at the resource level as well, like I said. So I'll go back and this at resource. So as at resource level. So if I pick, for instance, if I pick a VM, it's one virtual machine, I pick a VM and I will also see that option to be able to assign role to a user. And once the user login is able to see this virtual machine only because I'm assigning the role on the virtual machine or on the resource level, you will only be able to see that particular resource. So that's majorly how to assign resources to how to assign rules to users on your network or on your infrastructure side. So now let's move forward and talk about Azure Governance. So what we are looking at in this lesson is role-based access control, and then we'll talk about resource lock, talk about resource tagging, and then Azure policy. Uh, so now, even though we couldn't really access because of what something has happened to my Azure AD, but we were able to see just on the high level on how to uh, access RBAC, that's role-based access control. RBAC is short. So RBAC really, just like we saw, is to be able to assign what we call or to do what we call fine-grained access management. They allow you to be able to give access to users or resources at different level. So like we say, we have our Active Directory, and in Active Directory, you have your users, you have your groups, you have your applications. Now, these users, even if you have user and you didn't give them access to certain applications, they will not be able to access it. So you can either assign role to a user or you assign role to a group of users. So in this case now, if I have resources that, if I have a group of people that have similar requests or that need similar access, I can create a group and put all those users in that group instead of me assigning the role to each of the users one after the other. All I will need to do is just assign the role to the user group, and every member of that group automatically have that role. So now, like we saw, we can then assign role to a user on subscription level. When you do that, you automatically have access to all the resources from top down. Any resource that is created within that subscription automatically have access to it. And we can assign to a group at resource group level. So if we have 10 resource groups that have been created and I have user called user one, or I have user called user one, and that user one is giving role on resource group one, he will only be able to access resource group one and every resources that is in resource group one. So it allow you to to segregate duties within team and grant only the amount of access to user that they need to perform their job. So that way you are not giving too much access to a user than you need. So you are doing what we call best effort or minimum, on the minimum requirement rather than giving, in excess. So you are able to control access to Azure portal and controlling access to various resources. That's just what the RBAC allow you to do. But the key word here is fine-grained access management, giving access to resources based on just what they need, access to. Now, let's talk about resource lock. There are times when we create a resource and while trying to perform certain tasks, we mistakenly delete it. You might have even experienced at some point, maybe you remotely connect to a machine now, and you wanted to click maybe disconnect or restart. What you did is you click shut down, and then you're waiting for the server to come back up. Restart I hit now, the restart button. And but by the time you realize it was actually shut down button you have pressed. So if such resource or such server, let's say is hosted in data center that is in another state or where far away that, and you do not have somebody stationed there physically, you have to drive down or fly down, you know that's going to incur another cost. Or let's say while you are remotely connected to a server, for instance, you right click and there are a lot of actions that you can pick, but what you went to pick mistakenly is delete, and the thing is even asking you, are you sure? Probably you just felt okay, it's in your what you are thinking is what I want to do is what I've asked it. Yes, I'm sure. And you just click it, and that's it. That particular resource or file is deleted, and later somebody you are looking for it, what happened? You mean I just deleted that file? So now you are looking for how you are going to recover it. And then in Azure, something we need to take into cognizance is that not all Azure resources support recovery. So there are some resources that you have deleted. Once you delete them, they are gone. You cannot recover them. So in such case, you want to prevent such accidental deletion of resource or even accidental modification of resources or services in your Azure cloud. So what lock allow you to do is to be able to protect resources from accidental deletion or modification. And then when we talk about lock, there are two types of lock that you can configure or create in Azure. One is read only. So where you do not want a user to update anything, to adjust anything, to do anything, they are only to be able to see it, and that is all. You will give them read-only access. The moment you apply read-only access, it means you cannot update and you cannot delete. You can only view. So read-only access is equals to view only, you know. But there are times where you want an administrator to be able to do his work, like maybe starting a virtual machine, stopping a virtual machine, updating a virtual machine, updating certain things and all of that. So in such case, you will not give read only, you will give cannot delete. Cannot delete means you can do everything else except deleting that resource. So those are the two types of locks that you have in Azure. Now, uh, um, talking about what type of resource you can actually apply, lock on. You can apply resources you can apply lock to resources, any form of resource. You can apply it at subscription level, you can apply it at resource group level, or you can apply it to individual resources themselves. So if you apply at subscription level, whatever action, if you have said do not delete, and then something happened, you needed to really or truly delete a particular resource in that subscription, you will not be able to, because the policy traveled down, the inheritance, it traveled down. So if you put it at the subscription level, it traveled down to resource group level and to individual resources. If you put it at resource group level, it traveled down to individual resources within that resource group. And if you use individual resources, it is just that resource that is going to be affecting. So let's see if we can quickly show how to assign, how to configure lock or create lock in Azure. So now I'm at the resource group, I'm at the subscription level right now. This is the subscription, and these are all the resources that are available in this subscription. So here, you can just scroll here, you will see the lock. You see resource lock. So if you click resource lock, you'll be able to see the different resources. Sorry, you'll be able to add. If you have created any before, you will see it here, but we do not have any. So what we want to do is to create one. So like I said, we have read only and we have delete. So if I pick, let's pick delete for instance, and say no delete. I put a note and then you click save. So let me see. This my resource. Nothing is happening. This is because this particular subscription now is, let's change the subscription. There's something wrong with that. It's been disabled. There's a service I turned on that I forgot to shut down. Let me pick this guy. So I'll go back to resource. Do not have permission. You don't have permission to edit logs. Okay. Have permission to edit logs. Why is that? I know I was creating something the other time. So let me go to resource group level and see what I can do. Okay. Sign out. Sign back to this guy. Let's see what I can do from here. Okay. So here I'm on the resource group level and I click no delete. Put no delete. I click OK. So now I have created this no delete lock on the resource group level. Sorry, on the subscription level. So if I go now to the resources in this subscription, I have one, I have a VM here, and then this virtual machine, can pick the virtual machine. It's currently running. You will notice that I can stop it. It's running. I can restart. I can stop. I can stop, but I do not want to stop. Let me just say restart. So I can restart the VM. It's running. Otherwise, it will have given me error. Then, so I have to wait for it to kind of finish. Mhm. So once you restart finish, another thing we can do is to say we want to, because that will not, just to show you that we cannot delete anything. So while that is going on, let me pick something else. Let me pick this. This is what? Interface card. And then let me select option to delete. Okay, warning, that's interface. Say yes. And then I say delete. So notice cannot delete, it failed. Cannot delete, cannot perform delete operation because the following scope are locked. Subscription level. Please remove the lock and try again. So that's exactly how. But you see that I could restart the virtual machine because the lock type that we use is to say do not delete. So if I come here, that's I am currently, okay, we are still on the subscription level. So what I will do is to say what, or before we go further, let's see one of the resource. Click the VM itself. We go to the lock, go to lock. Let's see what we have there. You see that lock is reflecting here as well. So that is how it traveled down, like I said, it traveled down. So if we go now to go and remove uh, the lock and delete it, and it's gone. If we want to delete now, it will allow us to delete anything from that resource. So that's just how simple it is. Now, let's quickly create a resource group. Don't want to use this one. Create a resource group very quickly. Another thing is that my internet is also slow this morning. Okay, so resource lock test. I pick my user West Europe. And I click create. So I have this resource. I can decide to just lock this resource, even though we have not created any resource here. So what happened? View only. So I give it read only. So that's what we have applied. Read only on this resource group. What will happen now is if I go, this is a resource group, right? If I go to, if I go back and say, now create, I want to create a resource in this group, in this. So let's pick storage, for instance. So I'm picking that resource group that we've locked. We say is view only, and then storage test lock storage. Okay, and then I pick my standard queue redundant, pick local to save my money, and then I click create. Validation check fail. View detail. View detail is cannot perform operation because lock is. So you see, so please remove lock. So that resource group, I can only view it. Anybody who have access to it can only view existing resource that is in it. Nobody can create anything or delete anything from it. So that is how the lock work in Azure. So now let's go back. Okay, so we're able to create lock at subscription level, and we're able to create lock at resource group level. We can also create at individual, and then we're able to delete it. So now let's move on, talking about tags now. Okay, so tags. Since when you create, or when you are creating, if you are creating so many resources, and these resources are to be used or being used by different team or different group of people, or they are to be used, some of them are to be used by some departments within the organization, or even some subsidiaries. In a situation where you have a group of companies, what they want to do is to know the level of resources, or how much the IT team, how much is being spent on IT at the subsidiary level. Or if it's a very large organization that do not have subsidiary, but they are so large in terms of maybe number, and they have branches all over, the globe and all of that. So in that case, you might want to also know how much um, how much in terms of IT, how much each of the branch, or each group, or even each department at each location are consuming. So in that case, what you will do is you have to create, each time you are creating your resources, you have to create tags for that can indicate maybe who are the owner, or who is using. So say for instance, on the screen here, we have a key, which is owner key, then the value, specify the value, Joe. So if you type Joe, when you go to tag and you pick Joe as one of the tags, you see all the resources that Joe have access, or Joe that is owned by Joe. So that way, what tag now do in that sense is it allow you, or it provide what we call metadata of your Azure resources. And when we say metadata, we are talking about data about data. So I have this resource. The resource is a data. Now something is telling me who have the resource. Oh, Joe is the owner of the resource. This is data and information about the owner, or about another information. That's really what metadata is. So tags also help you to organize resources into groups that indicate the relationship between the groups and the resources. It also they are majorly, or let me say they are majorly a key value pair. Key value pair meaning is always in two. There will be a key. A key is maybe like a question, and then the value is now the answer provided for that particular question. So the key in this case, now on the screen, you will see owner Joe, you will see department marketing. So now you can have department, and department can have different value. You can have marketing, you can have IT, you can have finance, you can have HR, and all of that. So that way you're able to select just the marketing tag, and you see all resources that are being used by marketing. Okay, and then you can tell whether that particular resource is a production resource, or is a test resource, or is a development resource. So that way you can, that majorly that is what you use tag for. And at the end of the day, it allow you, or it is very useful for rolling up billing information. That's for you to be able to know what each of the category, or each of the owner or group of people that are using those resources, what they are consuming at the end of the day. That's what majorly tag is used for, or tagging is used for in Azure. Now let's see very quickly how you apply tags in Azure. So I'll go back to the subscription, and then right here you see tags. So if I click tags here, uh, um, there are no current tag right now. No tag exists. You can also go to home, you close, you go to home and type tag, you'll see tags. And then when you open it, you are able to see the different tags. So you are seeing this because I've at some point done, tagging. But if we are looking at our subscription that we're using, select all. So you notice we do not have any tag here right now. So what I will do is to go back and go into my subscription back, and where are the resources? This is subscription. Select the resources. So on the resource level, I can put a tag. This virtual machine, for instance, I'll put a tag like who is the owner. So I can put, maybe let's use department. I can put department. Then this is the P, and this is now the value. Department can be ICT. And I apply. So this particular VM now is being, virtual machine is being used by the ICT department. I can also go back to subscription. This is this public IP. I can pick this public IP. Let's see if we inherit the tag, because it's, the IP is for that virtual machine that we just assigned the tag to. And then we go to tag. This guy does not have a tag right now. So I can say uh, uh, owner, for instance, is ICT also. So what is for their server. So now by the time we go back, to tags, we'll be able to see those tags that we just created. So if I click department tag right now, you will see also the resources here based on the tag that I've selected. You'll see all the resources that are owned by that particular or that have the same tag as what we have selected earlier. So so now one other thing is policy can also be used here to enforce tagging. And in the next slide, we'll be talking about policy. So let's go back. Really, that's majorly the use of tag, and how to assign tag is not something so difficult. So now, Azure policy. Policies, majorly what they do is to grant permission to users to access certain resources. So there are certain policies, guidelines, and regulatory compliance policies to be followed by every organization, no matter how small it is. Every organization will have their own set of policies or compliance, rules to be followed. And these policies, most of the time, is associated or could be associated with security, it could be associated with cost, it could be associated with resource management, you know. And then let's say, for example, now, an organization might want all resources to be created maybe in a particular region, maybe in the, like I've been doing in the West region, for instance. So one of the things you want to do this cost. If you look at the different regions, some of the regions have different costing. Some are more expensive than the other. So you might say, in an organization might say, okay, for us to be able to minimize cost, every resource that is being created must be created from a particular region. Or it could be that because the government or the local policy is preventing certain data from going, from being hosted in other countries. So they have certain countries that the data can be hosted. So in that case, you might have a policy, or we might create a policy that says when people are creating resources, only this region should be allowed for those resources to be created. If they select any other region other than that, it will fail. That's to say, they must meet compliance requirement before, if they must create a resource. So with that, you can actually create a policy that says resource must be created in a particular location. Another thing is, you might also have a requirement that says, as people are creating resource, it must have a tag. The resources must be tagged to be able to tell who is the owner of the resource, or who is using it, and all of that, or what is being used for. So in that case also, you can create a policy that allow or enforce or forces people to apply a tag when they are creating resources in Azure. So you can create a policy that enforces people to apply a tag when they are creating resources in Azure. Now, when we are talking about policies, in terms of Azure policies, they are they are of two types. There is what we call policy definition, and there's what we call initiative definitions. So policy definitions, really, they are individual in nature. Individual in nature, in the sense that I can go and create a tagging policy now and apply it. That tagging policy is an individual policy. I can go and create a location policy now and apply it. That's because I'm applying just that one to, to a resource. It's just an individual policy. But there are times where you have multiple policies or multiple attributes that a resource must meet. So in this case, I want a resource. When you create a resource, it must be in this location. The resource must have a tag. The resource must meet this particular security requirement. The resource should have this particular role assigned to it. The resource should have this, it should have that, it should have that. So in that case, you have so many policies or so many attributes that you want that resource or those resources to have. So what you can do is to create what we call initiative initiative definitions. So in other words, initiative definitions, they are a collection of policies that can be assigned at any level. Initiation policy or initiation definitions, they are a set of policies that have been grouped together to be assigned to resources. So when you create initiation policy or initiation definition, most of the time as they are assigned automatically. That initiative has been created, and then all the collections, all the policies have been created, so you make it a collection and you can apply it. So subsequently, when people are creating policy, you allow them to just quickly or automatically apply those policies to them. So policies, Azure policies, and help to enforce organizational standards and to assess compliance at scale. So it provides governance and resource consistency with regulatory compliance. So when we mean consistency, it means every resource that is created, they are all following the same policies and the same standards. So there's consistent in how things are done in that particular environment. So it helps you to evaluate and identify resources that do not comply with your policy and give recommendation or in, advise you to ensure they meet those policies. There are a lot of pre-built or built-in policies and definitions or initiative definitions that have been created for different categories of resources. They can be applied to resources like storage, networking resources, computing resources, and even security resources like security center. And then you can apply it at different level like subscription level, management group level, resource level, or resource group level. So those are ways by which you can apply Azure policy. So if we want to quickly see how the policies, our Azure policies are created, we can quickly see one. Let's go back to home and we'll search for Azure policy. So policies. Okay, so here we are, and then this scope right now is subscription. You can actually change scope. It can be at management level. So when you create it, there's the root under management group. There's the root, and then from here you can see a subgroup or sub management group. So a management group can have multiple subscriptions under it. Can have multiple, as many subscriptions as you want to have. They can have it. And then you can now apply the policy either at the root level, sub-root level, subscription level, or resource group level. So if I click this resource group now, the subscription now is going to also give me the different resource group, whether I want the policy to be applied to, any of the resources here. So that's the way to apply either at the management group level, subscription level, resource group level. So now if we come to compliance here, sorry. Sorry, to come to definition. So here you will see these are different definition. Let's see, this is one here. Tags. Require a tag. Require a tag. So what we say require a tag and its value on resources. And enforce a require a tag and its value. Do not apply to resource group. Then tag name of the tag, such as environment. It's already giving you. These are different names that you can use. Can be, the value can be environment. If you select environment now, the value can be production. So this is a policy definition, for instance. So if I go now, what I can do is to assign this policy. If I click assign, now it's asking for scope. We've seen this earlier. So the scope, what I want to do for the scope is to go to yes, let's select the subscription level, and I click select. So I want to apply at the subscription level. Exclusion, I'm not excluding anything. Then require a tag, it's already there. I want to enable the policy who assign it, the person who assign. Then I say create and create. So what it will do is to assign, sorry, okay, parameter is missing. Okay, sorry, tag name. So tag name, I can put okay, department, specify the value. I can put HR. Show parameters I need input. So this is one. Then clicking next. I don't want to non-compliant message. So help user understand, you must apply a tag. Just click next and click create. So now I've created. So what it means now, I've assigned rather. If we go back to policy and you go to policy assignment, okay, so you see this policy require a tag. So now if I want to, if I go back to home, I go to the subscription and I want to create a new resource setup. I want to create a new resource here. I'm creating, let's see, storage account. I pick this guy and storage account, best policy. Lowercase. ST. Okay, then West Europe. and standard local redundant, and I click create. So it give error because I must apply a tag. If I go back, I'm going to apply a tag. Post this, select department, and I put either ICT department. Where is the, I'm expecting to see HR. And I click create. Okay, storage name, this is already taken. Okay, why is it not telling me that? Storage name, it's already taken. Where's the name? Okay. So now you see how it works. So it has applied because I apply the tag to it. You notice when it failed when we fail to apply tag. So likewise, I can also pick this there's location also, like we said, we can restrict policy, we can restrict to a particular location. Let's see, categories. Okay, allowed locations. So we can also apply this allowed location or allowed location for resource groups. So when you are creating resources, there are two things that when you are doing in Azure, you need to select location. One is when you are creating resource groups, you need to create a location, select a location. And then the other is when you are creating resources themselves, you need to select a location. So let's see this allowed location definition. So here we have allowed location and enable you to restrict the locations your organization can specify when deploying resources to enforce your geolocation, policy. So the location that can be specified when deploying resources, location, so specified location, parameter, list of allowed location. So if I say now, I want to assign this now, I can pick, now I want to pick subscription, and then I want to pick resource group level now. So this case now, we're applying at the resource group level. So if we create another resource in resource group in this subscription, this policy will not apply because we're only applying it to this resource group. Then allowed locations name. So click next. So now here you select the various location you want. So we can pick maybe let's say Europe. So West Europe. Let me remove Europe. I pick West Europe and I pick maybe West US 2, right? And then those two that I've selected, I click next, click next, click next, and click create. So it's at the resource group level now. If I go now to that resource group, as go to resource group, I will select the resource group. If I want to create, so it won't apply to whatever has been created before. It is subsequent resources that you are trying to create that it will apply to. So now, what can we create very quickly? You can pick web app or app service. So app service, select the resource group. Location test. Then it's window, I leave it. So we pick the locations we said is North Europe and this. So I'm going to leave it here as Central US. Let's see what happens. Select size to pick just the free one. So we should get error that is we are not allowed to create resources in that particular location. So that's okay. So fail, multiple error. We didn't apply tag. Forgot to do that. Recall tagging. The tag that we apply was at it was at subscription level. That's one. Two, should be location. Can I find here? Okay. Allowed location. Allowed locations here require a tag and its value. Then allowed location evaluation detail is trying to get the okay, allowed location. So that's simple. You are required to these two are applied and we didn't meet each of them, and that is why it has failed. So we are going to just to see how it works. So what we'll do is to remove those policies so it doesn't affect us in subsequent lessons, or at least we have been able to see how it works. So we need to go back to assignment and delete assignment. Then select the second one, location restriction, delete assignment as well. So going forward, we'll be able to do what we need to do. So that's just how to apply policy, that's in Azure policy in Office 365 in Azure, using initiative definitions. Now let's talk a bit about blueprint. So what we have done now is to see how to assign roles, how to create and assign policies. And then sometime in one of our lessons, we also saw how to use ARM templates to create resources very quickly. And then we saw how to create resource groups and all of that. Now, let's say that we want to apply all these policies or all these settings automatically, such that a new subscription is added to the tenant. All of these settings or this compliance policy are also automatically applied to them. We want certain rules to be assigned the moment a subscription is created, certain policy and compliance to be met. And then, so in this case now, what we will do or what we will use is to create a blueprint. Blueprints makes it possible for development teams, for instance, to quickly build and stand up a new environment. So that way, they are able to quickly trust the organizational compliance policy. Why? Because they are inbuilt. It's not that it's after they set up their resources that we are now applying all of these rules or all of these rules or all of these settings. But what we have done is we've put it already in place, and as they create, it also automatically apply those settings, and it doesn't look like we are distracting them or disrupting their work. So they just spin it up and they are already understand from beginning what and what they can do and what they cannot do on that environment they have spin up. So it's very quick for them to spin resources up and make use of resources in Azure. That's majorly how Blueprint work in Azure. Then we talk about cloud adoption framework. These are set of guidelines, really, an approach that Microsoft have designed for cloud adoption to help organizations to quickly adopt cloud. So they are set of best practices that over the year have been developed or over the years have been developed by Microsoft employee themselves, the Microsoft partner and its customers. So based on that, Microsoft is able to provide certain tools and guidelines to help organizations quickly adopt cloud services. So if the moment an organization says they want to start their cloud journey or cloud migration journey, one of the first things you need to do is to understand the strategy, have your business justification, expected outcome. You need to define all of that. Then once you have that in place, you need to plan now on how you are going to, do the migration or begin this journey. And you need to check your environment. Are you cloud ready? Is your environment cloud ready in terms of the kind of applications you are planning to move to cloud? How is it going to perform? How is it going to behave in the cloud? Are they using very old technologies that there will be so much disruption by the time you move it? Or is the technology that they are currently using, are they going to be supported also in Azure when you go there? Then once you have been able to identify the readiness of the environment, the next thing is you need to do the actual migration. Now, after you have done your migration, you need to innovate by developing new solutions, either that talk with your remaining on-premises solution or that are purely cloud as well. And you need to start developing solutions in an agile approach way, using agile approach, meaning very quick with speed. Then one of the other things you now need to consider is government, information governance, compliance, auditing, and all of that. You need to consider all of that with all the workload you are currently migrating. Then once you have been able to do that, ongoing operation, that's ongoing management of those resources, you also need to, have a plan on ground to say, now that you are in cloud and how do you continue to maintain your compliance policy? How do you continue to maintain experience for user security and all of that? So that is majorly what cloud adoption is, a framework that allow Microsoft customers to quickly onboard and get used to cloud and start enjoying it in a short time. So finally, this is the last section of the of this lesson, and that is privacy, compliance, and data protection. So in this particular lesson, we have talked a whole lot about compliance. So we have talked a whole lot about security in our past lessons. But what Microsoft did is to ensure that they are as transparent as possible when it comes to dealing with customer or their customer data. They have a lot of documentations, lot of resources that can help you to tell you that truly they are doing what they say they are doing, tell you what they have access to, what they can do with your data and what they cannot do with your data. And that can actually inform you whether to continue to host your services with them or not. So security, privacy, and compliance. There are two types of security, really. We have talked about it before. Talk about physical security and then digital security. Physical security have to do with how you keep your physical data center, the physical building, keep it secure and keep it safe and prevent unauthorized access into those particular areas. Then when we talk about digital security, we're talking about other security solutions or tools in terms of cyber security and other things. So Microsoft protects against known and unknown cyber threats using built-in intelligent automation and artificial intelligence. So uh, um, excuse me. So they implement what we call security by design. Security by design means right from the time or right from the inception of you developing the app or the solution, you are already implementing security along the way. On each stream, on each phase, you are already implementing security. That is security by design. That's what Microsoft, that is the policy or the approach they use in designing their services. Now, what they do is when it comes to privacy, Microsoft is so committed to ensuring the privacy of organizations' data through what they call contractual agreements, as well as providing control and user control and privacy for organizations. So they promise their customers that their data is not going to be released to any third party without the consent of the customer themselves. So to the extent that when we talk about privacy, data at rest, let's say you have in Azure, you have storage service that you have subscribed to, and this storage service contain a lot of your data, especially very important data. So what Microsoft do is to encrypt those storage, the data that is sitting in those storage at rest. They encrypt them such that when the data fall into a wrong hand, it becomes useless because they have to decrypt it before they can use it. So that is how how important or how serious privacy is to Microsoft. They even have a whole lot of websites where they put, their privacy statement, and go there to read it at any time and understand what Microsoft is telling you regarding what they see and what they do not see regarding the various services that they provide. Then talking about compliance, they respect local, that's Microsoft, they respect local laws and regulations and provide comprehensive coverage of compliance offerings. So take for instance, China does not want their data to be hosted anywhere except China. That is their law. Because of that, Microsoft have to set up a dedicated data center for China. There's also the United States government that also have their own law of their data cannot go out of the US. So there's also a dedicated United, there's the dedicated data center for the United States government alone using, that's because of the respect they have for local laws and regulation for the different customer and different country that is using their data. So now, talking about compliance terms and requirements, Microsoft provides, like I said earlier, they provide a lot of compliance uh, um, offerings that organizations can actually subscribe to. And because Microsoft themselves, they ensure they meet they ensure they meet all, if not every compliance policy that is out there, certifications, they write certification, they ensure they meet all of that in, so that while as they are meeting it, you also are automatically meeting those compliance. That is why if you have your resource in Azure, for instance, all all the compliance requirement that you might have in terms of GDPR, if you are health organization, in terms of the privacy of your patient data and all of that, they've already achieved it. So in other words, you are automatically achieving those policies as well. So so now, as you're going to Azure, those are things you have to already think about on how they are going to be made, which they are actually available. Uh, Maybe after the class, I'm going to be sharing some of this link for us to quickly access them and see. So Microsoft privacy statement, what it say is they are statement that provide what we call openness, like what I used to say, Microsoft is open to a fault, because everything regarding privacy, they put it out there for their customers to be able to see. Even when you have in your Azure or in Office 365, there's a section that is dedicated for privacy, compliance, governance, and all of that. So you might have people within your organization, the risk team, the audit team, they are not technical, but in terms of the security of the data within the organization or you meeting policy, they want to see. So you can give them access to those sections of your tenant, and they go there all the time to get necessary documents that they need, all the time from what Microsoft is actually doing and what they're not doing. So the statement explains what data Microsoft processes, how Microsoft processes them, and for what purpose those data are being used. So we'll see maybe a bit of that in a while. Then talk about online service terms and data protection addendum. We all know that in 2019, there was a newer data protection that was introduced, and Microsoft also ensured, see 2018, Microsoft also ensure that they have all of that. So online service term, for instance, is the license term that define the terms and conditions for the products and online services that you purchase as a customer. So when you purchase a particular product, what you get and what they are giving you, that is what is actually there. Then when you talk of the data protection policy, it's a set of obligations and that are being set aside that must be met in terms of when it comes to dealing with customer data or the security of customer data or personal data. Personal data have to do with maybe the personal information of an organization, like the name, the address, and the location and all of that. And as an individual, your name, your phone number, your address, everything that concerns you, they are referred to as personal data. Then trust center. So Microsoft have, like I've been saying, they have a website that is dedicated for all of this, where you can read their privacy policies, where you can see, the different compliance policy or settings that Microsoft have met, and then the practices, all the necessary practices across Microsoft solutions when it comes to cloud. And then, so this Trust Center is a website that provides in-depth and expert information regarding the services Microsoft is rendering to you. They corrected the list of recommended resources that are arranged by topic, and then role-specific information for businesses when it comes to managers, administrators, your role as an engineer, your role as a risk assessor, privacy officer, legal team. So you are able to visit each of those topics and according to your own, based on your own rule. Let's say, for instance, if you're a legal team, for instance, you wouldn't really want to concern yourself about the administration of the resources. What you want to concern yourself is anything that have to do with legal implication. So because you do not want your customer to come and hold it tomorrow that their data is not private or is not being protected as it ought to have been protected. So let's quickly, and that is the last uh, uh, let's quickly see the I will come back to that because time has gone actually. We'll see in a short while. Let's quickly just finish the slide. uh, we've talked about compliance a lot. So the compliance now, if you go to the website, you will see it in, there is this global one that is covering everybody else, every other organization that are outside of the United States government or even China. There is the segment that is covering just the United States government, and there's the industry focus. That's in terms of whether it's health, is construction, is financial. There is that in the documentation are segmented in that way, and then region in terms of you have China, you have different regions, like we said, regional, policies or documentation, compliance documentation that can help all organizations understand how. So region, so when we talk of sovereign region, I talk about the United States government uh, having a requirement that certain data cannot leave the US, or US data cannot be hosted in another region. So they have a dedicated data center for the US government service to host their data, and they have, accordingly, they have compliance documents or site or setting. And if you look, example of this compliance standard, you see the FedRAMP needs, there are a lot of them. These are just a few that are being, listed here. And then finally, we talk about China. So China have their own Azure data center dedicated just to them, and then operated by 21 variant VNet. So when you are subscribing, when you are setting up some services, or when you are making research on maybe documentation on Microsoft site, you will see most of the time it will tell you whether it is the one operated by 21 VNet. So this is specifically for China. It's specifically for China. So anything that doesn't carry this is for anybody else. So that is all regarding this particular module. So we've been able to cover all of this. We're able to cover Azure Identity Services. We're able to understand authentication against authorization. We're able to understand how Azure AD work with regards to conditional access, multi-factor authentication. We're able to see the Azure Governance features that are available for us. We saw how RBAC and resource lock and resource tagging work. Then Azure Policy, we're able to see that. So quickly, I'm going to take you um, Azure Privacy Statement website. This is Azure Privacy Statement website, so you can visit this place and understand. Sorry, and understand, what it's what they have said in terms of privacy. So if you go up, you see as it concerns personal data that are collected, what Microsoft is doing to them, how they use your personal data, reason they share your personal data, and how to access and control your own personal data. You will see all of this. Then when it comes to product specific, you see product, enterprise products and developer products. You see productivity and communication. This is Office 365. Then you see Windows, and they have data around almost everything that concern an organization and you know um, an organization and even individual person as you use Microsoft product. So you can see things like, let's see this one, online services, let's see. In the event of a conflict between this Microsoft privacy statement and the terms of any agreement between a customer and Microsoft enterprise and developer product, the term of those agreements will control. So you can also learn more, about this. These are just they give you this for you to be able to view and understand what they are doing with your data. Microsoft account, this is really, when you are signing into any Microsoft service, you have the option to select what we call personal Microsoft account, or work or school account, or there's this third party account that are created by service provider. So how they use those accounts is what they are. Even for schools, for schools, see, let's even use this. Microsoft will not collect or use student personal data beyond that needed for authorized educational or school purposes, not sell or rent student personal data. So these are just the privacy statement. Then when we come to, this is for this is Microsoft's Trust now, the Trust website. So at a glance, you will see our commitment to you as our customer. So telling you control your own data. We are transparent. That's Microsoft. We secure data at rest and in transit, and then they defend your data for you. So majorly, this is the Microsoft side. You see compliance offering.
Hello, good
Yeah,
afternoon.
yeah. Good
I'm not,
afternoon.
I'm sorry for disturbing you. It seems
Okay,
like I can't see your screen from my end.
you can't. Can anybody see my screen? Joy, can you see my
Like
screen?
I don't see the privacy statement screen. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. Can you see? Can you see the slide?
No slide.
No slide.
Yes,
Hello, is
except
anybody else seeing it?
except I'm the only one experiencing.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Joy.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you been seeing my slide?
Yes, I've been seeing the slides.
What about the privacy um, page? Can you see it?
Is it the one you are showing now?
Yes, right now. That says
Yes, I
center.
can see it, but it's not bold.
Oh,
Maybe I'll have to connect them because I can't see.
okay. So, bold. Not bold. How about now?
It's better now.
Okay. So please, can you rejoin? Though we're just rounding up. This actually the
Yeah,
last
I
week.
see.
Yes,
I
we're
think
rounding.
It's better now. It's okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So this is Microsoft Trust Center. Notice here, Trust Center. So here we can click. Let's see beyond existing. Let's see learn more, or we can go to the under the additional resources and see compliance offering, legal enforcement data request report. We can see US national security report, international export, export report. So going to each of those sites, you can see a lot of information here, and most of them are PDF. They are PDF, so you can access information based on is this a different policy that has been set. Then law enforcement reports. So these are different reports that you have, and you can actually download them and then read or provide the um, to the necessary group of people that needs it in your environment. So I'm more interested in the, let's see, compliance offering. Where is the compliance offering page? Compliance offering. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is the page I was looking for. See how much document you have on this page right now for you to be able to access. So this regulatory and industry compliance. So if we click Microsoft compliance offering, for instance, you see all of this is under global. This one for US government. As we said, these are for industry based, like health industry, finance industry, and all of that, regional based, you know. So these are different, documents that you can read and provide. ISO standard. Where is EPA, for instance? EPA will be under industry. Mm, Where's EPA? Am I seeing? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's my eye that is not seeing. This is like, yes, EPA. EPA is here. So if I click this, for instance, to say I want to open, take me down here, and I can read all the things regarding all the services that Microsoft is offering. This particular industry type, you are able to read things and understand how your data is being used, and all of that. So if we look at ISO um, 20020, 27001. I'm looking for, yeah, 27001, for instance. If we click this, we see Microsoft in Scope Cloud and Services. These are all the services this particular policy is covering. And then Scope Services. So you're able to see all of this. Just read those excerpts and you are able to understand exactly. So that's really on the eye level. I will post the this compliance, post it for us on the chat so we can visit it at our own time. So I think that will be the end of the class for today. So do we have questions?
Hello, ma.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you very much for today's class.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. So I have some questions,
Okay.
but not exactly on today's lesson,
Okay.
but they are general questions.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay. My first question is concerning the web app.
Okay.
During I think it was a second module, I was able to create a web app.
Mm-hmm.
But after creating it, I opened it and it said I need to upload content on the web app.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I don't know how to go about that, and I don't know if I really have to do that now.
No. So for the lesson, for the purpose of the lesson, is just creating a web app is just for you to create resources in Azure, right? See how you can quickly set up a website.
Okay.
Now, you creating a web app is just that you are provisioning the server, but the content for that web app, you still have to upload it.
Okay.
So let's say you want to use the web app now to host maybe your website where you want to be selling things, or you have a business that you are doing, you want to be selling, you are selling certain things and you want to now have a website for people to be able to visit. Now, once you create a web app finished in Azure, you need to design, you need to build how design the interface of the website, how it's going to be, what will be in where. So those content, the pictures and all of that, you have as a person have to provide it. So majorly it will not be you. It might be that you have to get the service of people that build websites. But
Okay.
Azure just give you a place for you to host it. That's why when you look at responsibility, you have to bring your own data. They are only providing a platform for you to host it, but you have to bring your data.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
which other question?
The other question concerning the Azure free credit. I observed that I've not been able to use it. So I want to ask that, do I need to upgrade? Because I think maybe tomorrow when it will expire.
Oh,
So I don't know if I have to upgrade or what do I need to do?
no, you don't have to upgrade. So even if it expires, right, you
Okay.
can still the only thing is there are still some free services that you can still run, right? You
Okay.
notice when we are creating the web app, we can pick F plan. The F plans are free.
Okay.
So what did you go? Is it just the Azure you subscribe for? Did you subscribe for? Did you sign up for Visual Studio, my Visual Studio?
I think there was Yes, my Visual Studio. That was what I used to sign
set it
into
up.
the account.
Okay, so what finished really is the $200 that is assigned to you when you first sign up. That's the money that is going to expire. But there are a lot of other services that are free that you can still spin up, except where, because it's for lab purpose, I wouldn't advise that you upgrade it. Upgrading it means you are going to start paying for certain things that are not free that you have subscribed for. But another thing you can also do is to say, okay, if I want to now create something that doesn't have free plan and I need to use for the purpose of my lab, how do I do it? So it means you might need to create, what our advice is to rather create another trial subscription, but you have to use a different email address entirely, a different Microsoft account. It means you have to create a new Microsoft account and use that also to spin up a new subscription. But on the natural level, there are a lot of free services. It's just that when whatever service resource you want to spin up is not now under that free service, that's the only time it will be an issue for you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Then the examination, when will the examination be?
Okay, so that's one. What we are doing is I will have to confirm from the host of the textilers. They will provide the voucher for us, but you can write the exam to be able to register and write the exam anytime you want. So the voucher is going to be given to you, but you might need to book your exam within certain number of days or months, right? But
Okay.
once you book the exam, you can take, once you register the exam, the voucher, you booking that exam might take you or might be valid for you for like a year. So it means you don't have to rush it if you are really not ready. But we know this thing of this class, or one of the aim is for us to be able to write our exam. So if you are sure that you're ready to write the exam, of course, why not? You can go ahead. And then for your own self-learning, I will also recommend you use the Microsoft Learn
Okay.
to further improve, at least see all those topics again, learn again on your own pace or at your own pace before maybe you go write the exam. Microsoft Learn. Let me paste the URL for us also. So, but like I said, I will find out about the voucher and get back to us in our next class, hopefully.
Okay.
We have one module to go, which is next week. So after the next week, like a request that came last week, if upper week, if we feel we have time to stay on the call for another 2 hours, I can also come online for us to run through labs, as we have said.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mama, answer my question.
Yes,
As
please.
regards the exam vouchers.
Okay.
How about, how will I ask this now? Okay. How about if one wants a different voucher as from a different voucher from the fundamentals? Is it possible to get that as well?
To get that.
Like you said that one of the benefits of the training is to get a voucher afterwards, a free exam voucher, take a
Yes.
fundamental exam, right? And I said,
Yeah.
is it possible to request for a different exam voucher rather than the fundamental exam?
No. So because the class right now is fundamental for every class that we have taken, so it's fundamental uh, uh, this thing they will be giving. But I think when you have the, if you have taken the fundamental, have you taken the fundamental already?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, so I think if you have taken the fundamental already, I think the voucher, you should be able, let me just stop recording, right?